Here's this week's Steam Code Raffle winner. I give a Steam code for a free game away with every video I do, and all you have to do to enter is leave a comment that wouldn't violate Twitter's terms of service. Make sure you have contact info in your YouTube profile so I can reach out to you. A complete list of games to choose from is in the description below. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a chance to win. Now on with the show. I'm playing something almost every week, and sometimes I want to talk about it and give you a vertical slice. So stick with me for some lightning reviews. This week on the chopping block. This week I've been playing, well, if I'm being honest, this week has been spent preparing for my next couple of bigger videos. So instead of talking about those titles, I'm going to look back on a relatively recent game that I would rather draw attention to. Papers, Please is definitely a weirder beast. When you write down the concept, it seems like it would be one of the most monotonous and boring pieces of electronic garbage on the face of the planet. It's essentially a bureaucracy em up. You play an unnamed citizen of a totalitarian communist nation, and the game starts with you winning the work lottery and being appointed to a job as a border checkpoint passport and paperwork inspector. Once you receive control, you're given instructions to just verify certain criteria on passports. As the game continues, the instructions increase in complexity. You start having to verify every single piece of information on multiple sheets of paperwork, and if any discrepancy pops up, you either have to turn away the individual or, if certain criteria are met, the people come and get detained. Soon it extends even farther, running identity checks through fingerprinting, and even scanning and photographing for contraband. It becomes fairly intricate, but the thing that makes this incredibly engaging, or stressful depending on your perspective, is that you are operating on a time limit and can only process so many individuals in a day. Not only that, but you get paid for each accurate one, and being a rather impoverished nation rampant with corruption, under the best scenarios, you bring home maybe a little bit of extra in order to feed and shelter your family. Additionally, there's somehow a secondary screening process that calls you out if you let people through accidentally or otherwise, or erroneously turn them away. Given the investment I eventually placed in trying to ensure that my family could maintain food and shelter, it's hard to describe the anguish that I could feel whenever the notice went off saying that I made a mistake with my processing. Now, if your goal is simply to survive, you might be wondering, why would I intentionally let through people when I have no benefit? Well, most scenarios allow you to have one mistake per day without experiencing significant penalty. And the part that makes this game so worth talking about is the narrative that unfolds in front of you through the faces coming in and out of your checkpoint building. Minor story spoilers ahead. Nothing egregious, but you've been warned, and quite frankly, I wouldn't care either way because it's about the journey. Your first few days go well, but all of a sudden the day is cut short when a terrorist attack takes place at the border, and as such, your shift is prematurely ended, causing you to have to tap into your very limited savings in order to make sure your family can live. Other scenarios start to transpire as well. A husband relates to you that their recently married wife is on the other side of the border, but the wife's paperwork is not in order. Do you allow her by and become merely a small point in their happily ever after, or do you separate the lovers in order to make sure you and your family are cared for? Other scenarios soon arise, such as the border guard that gives you a bonus by detaining more people with egregious errors, but I was doing that anyways as part of my job, so it was a win-win. Or the exotic dancer that you save from a human trafficker by remembering the description she gave and detaining him when the opportunity pops up. There's even one particular character you see repeatedly, Georgi Kostava. This guy is seemingly a lovable oaf, sloppily making assorted documents in order to try and enter the country, but he's never angry at you when you turn him away, until eventually he has the correct paperwork and you let him in. This was a whole saga in and of itself. And under one specific story ending, he ended up saving my ass by putting me in connection with people that could give me the proper resources in order to flee the country right before the government was about to take me. But if you thought this was just a tale of moral choices on an individual level, then you are sadly mistaken. Eventually, depending on choices you've made, you may be approached by members of an underground resistance group attempting to remove the current regime and bring about revolution for the benefit of the citizenry. Let me say this again. This is a game where the primary means of interaction with your environment is processing paperwork. When I heard about this, I was so intrigued by the concept of a game with such a mundane premise being able to realize such a compelling narrative, and you know what? Consider me convinced. This is the game that put the developer, Lucas Pope, on my radar, who I now look forward to seeing what else he can create. I know he's also done Return to the Obra Dinn, and I played that one as well. It was also fairly compelling, but it didn't grab me to the same degree. But anyway, back to Papers, Please. It's available on Steam for relatively cheap. However, if you're a hopeless mutant like me and you have to have a physical incarnation for some system, there is a PlayStation Vita version from Limited Run. It's probably one of the few systems that would be able to utilize it effectively because the Vita benefits tremendously from a touchscreen interface. I bet the Switch could also probably handle it easily, but now I'm getting distracted. Papers, Please is unlike a vast majority of big-budget games in the sheer unmarketability of its premise, which is unfortunate because if you are open to the idea, then there is a very compelling game here with, last I checked, over a dozen different potential endings based on your choices. I'm not going to go any further, though. If I haven't convinced you by now, then I'm probably not going to. I think Papers, Please is great, and for a guy who normally hates doing paperwork to praise a paperwork simulator, you know it has to be doing something right. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna get back to work on some of my bigger upcoming projects. Hey, look at that, it's the end of the video. Don't forget to subscribe, and remember that commenting can actually win you a free prize. So until next time, this is Gheeotine saying thanks for watching and keep your head on your shoulders.